Good afternoon, this is Transfer Talk. Mikel Arteta sends a clear message that Arsenal need to sign a striker, but it must be the right player. Also this hour, Enzo Maresca responds to reports the club are interested in signing Alejandro Garnacho. We'll also hear from Ange Postecoglou, Tottenham in need of a forward, but will they manage to get one? And Pep Guardiola speaks to the media live at 12:30. We'll hear from the City boss for the first time since Omar Mamouche was confirmed to have joined the club. Good afternoon to you at home. We've also got Molly back with us, Craig Coos here, and Daniel as well. Let's get straight to it. Mikel Arteta responded to further scrutiny around the club's need to sign a striker today. Putting the questions to the Arsenal boss at his news conference was Jamie Weir. We can go live to him now. Jamie, what did he respond with today?
Yeah, David, well, today was interesting because, I mean, there has been so much noise surrounding Arsenal about this need to bring in a forward player this month. Arsenal need to sign a forward. Arsenal need a striker. Arsenal need an out-and-out number 9, given the lengthy injuries that they've got to Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus as well. Up until today, I had certainly always been under the impression that Mikel Arteta was saying, look, we would obviously love to sign a striker. We would obviously really like to do that, but I don't think it's an absolute necessity. Today, however, the tone changed. It was very much a, look, we need to bring in a forward this month. The players need help. We are sort of down to the bare bones in that department. It was a very, very clear indication from Mikel Arteta, and a lot of Arsenal fans might say a very clear indication to the board that they need to get some business done. They are active. They have identified targets. There is work going on behind the scenes. As of yet, there's still nobody through the door. But this left me in no doubt at all as to what Mikel Arteta thought. Obviously, there's so much noise outside the club. Arsenal need to sign a forward. Arsenal need to sign a forward. And I know we sound like broken records when we ask you about that, but you clearly don't share that same sentiment. Do you think it is essential that you sign a forward, or would you be very happy with...
Sorry, I don't share what?
The same sentiment that you have to sign a forward this month? Or do you?
Have I ever said no to a striker?
No, but you don't feel it's a necessity, do you?
How do you say that?
You do feel it's a necessity?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. I'm saying so many people outside the club seem to think that Arsenal have to sign a forward this month.
So what is my opinion?
Yes.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. My opinion is clear. We lost two very, very important players, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus. So we lack goals, we lack people, we lack options in the front line. It's clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think it's essential that you have to bring forward then? Next?
If we can get the right player, that's what we are actively looking at it. Yeah. Any player, no. Someone that makes us better and has an impact in the team. It's clearly that for the period that we lost them, ideally, we need some help because we were very short already and we're even shorter. But the team still copes with that. But we have to do what is right for the club.
If the window were to close and you hadn't brought in a forward option?
That's an option because it doesn't depend on us. Yeah. It doesn't depend just on Arsenal or Mikel or our will. It depends on the market and many other factors.
And is there work going on at the moment to bring? Have you identified targets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, straight talking from Mikel Arteta there. We know, obviously, about their injury concerns. Is there a feeling of frustration, do you think, about a lack of business?
Yeah, I certainly picked up on that vibe, I would say, Dave, and he was asked a few more times about it as well. And what was very interesting was it saying the players themselves within the squad have commented to him that they're down to the bare bones, that they need some help at the moment, and also that he consults the players when it comes to prospective signings. He sort of asks players who might have played at a different club alongside a potential new signing, or internationally alongside a potential new signing, what sort of character that player is like, and that can be invaluable, having that sort of knowledge. So I thought that was really interesting to hear this morning. I also asked him about the possibility that they're slightly hamstrung, Arsenal, in that they can't do another domestic loan this month because they've already got Neto from Bournemouth and Raheem Sterling from Chelsea. I said, is it a possibility if a really good domestic loan presented itself that one of those guys might go back to their parent club? And he absolutely categorically ruled out that possibility. So I know there's been lots of talk about Matheus Cunha and whether he could come in on loan from Wolves, who ironically Arsenal of course play tomorrow. Well, that is not an option at all. It would have to be a permanent deal, but that one has kind of kind of gone quiet. Anyway, I think there is a sense of frustration. As I said, that is the clearest indication I've ever heard yet today that Mikel Arteta absolutely thinks that it is a necessity that Arsenal bring in a forward this month. The good news is at the back, they do have some players coming back as well. William Saliba and Maslow Skelly, who's been so impressive since he's come into the side, might play tomorrow, more realistically next week. Ben White also nearing a return as well. So that is good news. But up front, they are light and there's work going on. OK, Jamie, thank you very much. I would agree, actually, with Jamie. It felt like the most open we've seen Mikel Arteta. Straight talking, straight to the point. Will Arsenal fans be happy to hear that today?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. You know, he has been rather non-committal previously when it comes to the need necessarily for a striker in this very window. I think it's a no-brainer they need a striker. They've needed one for many seasons, many transfer windows gone by. Whether or not they're going to get that striker, though, the man up front that they need, I'm still not convinced that's going to happen in this window, despite Mikel Arteta's comments. You know, he did mention there that he will still do what's right for the club. The club has to be important here. And I think, realistically, unless they're offloading players, it doesn't look like Arsenal are going to be able to bring in the man in this window. And who would they offload if they were to do that? From a loan perspective now, could they bring someone in? They can't. They would need to offload. I'm not sure that this window we're going to see a difference. That said, Mikel Arteta has made it clear now that a striker is needed, particularly with Bukayo Saka's absence, Gabriel Jesus too. If Declan Rice, Leandro Trossard, Martin Odegaard, if they can provide more goals for Arsenal, perhaps it would lessen the need at this point of the season for the next part of the season. But as well, you know, the title race is still within reach, as are various cup competitions and the Champions League, of course. It shows some ambition, I think, from Mikel Arteta's perspective to say that they do need a striker. But again, I don't think it's enough just yet to be guaranteed as Arsenal fans that one will be coming in this window.
He's also mentioned that not just any player, it has to be the right player. And I think that's important because summer is where the big business gets done. And if Arsenal have got a long-term target when it comes to that number 9 that could put the ball in the back of the net, and that player might be available in the summer as opposed to January, where it's a little bit more difficult to get business done, then I don't think Arsenal would hamstring themselves in terms of not being able to bring that striker in the summer. So Mikel Arteta, it was important for him to outline that has to be the right player.
What type of player are we looking at here?
We're looking at, again, if you look at the players that are linked to Arsenal, Sesko is a man that Arsenal looked at in the summer. He signed a new contract at Leipzig. And it seems like a lazy comparison, but if you look at the player profile, it compares favourably to Erling Haaland, same stature. But with that stature comes that blistering pace, that willingness to run in behind. And I think that would benefit a player like Martin Odegaard, who is Arsenal's chief creator, hasn't necessarily contributed with goals this season, but a player that's willing to make those runs, because you do see the difference, right? If you look at the top teams in the league that have actually got strikers that put the ball in the back of the net, those strikers are making runs. Whether they're pacey or whether they're not, it's about the willingness to make that run consistently. And with Arsenal's creative force in the form of Martin Odegaard, it's somebody that has the instincts of a striker. Kai Havertz has scored goals for Arsenal, but he hasn't got the instincts of a striker in terms of making that late run into the box, whether it's near post, far post. And so they need somebody who has that instinct and that nous in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net.
One thing I would just say quickly is Mikel Arteta also said, which I think was really interesting, is it's not just dependent on us. Of course, we would like to bring someone in if we can. But I think we're seeing that across the transfer window, especially in the Premier League at the moment. All the names we're talking about in these shows and even outside of that, there does seem to be a lull a bit in the transfer window. PSR is clearly still an issue in this window, and it just feels like everything could come to a head towards the end, with clubs needing to perhaps sell. I mean, there's players like Alexander Zinchenko who could potentially leave this window, which may free up a few more funds. But I think we're seeing that across the league, the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, all names linked with departures, but all very aware of the PSR and limitations in this window.
I mean, Sesko was mentioned there by Kweku, but it doesn't look too likely that Sesko will be joining Arsenal, given his agent has gone on record and said actually they're really happy with his development at RB Leipzig. Doesn't look like he'll be going anywhere this season. So the hunt is still on for Arsenal, and as Dan rightly says, PSR a massive problem for clubs at the moment when it comes to their spending caps.
Yeah, what it does mean is that we will be talking about Arsenal as the window ticks down. Another club we're going to be talking about, Manchester United, that's for sure. Chelsea are considering a move for United's Alejandro Garnacho before the window closes. Enzo Maresca's been talking today and has insisted he's happy with his current forward options.
No, I'm happy with the one that we have in this moment, that we said many times. In the right side is Pedro Noni, in the left side Jadon. Misha was with us, now he's not with us, but Tyreek, I think it's a young profile that can help us. So in this moment, we are okay.
Maresca says we're okay. He's happy with his options. Does he have to be mindful then of, I guess, the balance of his squad if Chelsea go out and buy Garnacho?
Yeah, it's very interesting, the scenario Chelsea find themselves in, because I think two things can probably be true at once. That, yes, he could be happy with the options he currently has, but Chelsea can also be very interested in potentially bringing Alejandro Garnacho to the club. I mean, remember, he's just 20 years old. He has well over 100 appearances in the Premier League, so great experience for someone like him. And he showed yesterday against Rangers what he can potentially do if he can show that consistency. Some great runs, perhaps a lack of a bit of an end product. But Garnacho is a fantastic footballer, young footballer as well. And I think for Chelsea, yes, they have a lot of attackers, but what they're also seeing is a lack of consistency from their options. I think if they potentially offload a few like Christopher Nkunku, I'm just going to put it out there, right? This is my proposal. Potential swap, Nkunku to United, plus maybe a bit of money for Garnacho. Garnacho goes the other way. Nkunku would be a lovely fit for Amorim's system. I'm not saying there's any kind of inside sources on that, but that's something potentially I would like to see, because it might fit both clubs. You never know.
Pure speculation from Daniel there. Garnacho played the full 90 minutes, actually, of United's late 2-1 win over Rangers in the Europa League last night. This is what Ruben Amorim said after the game on the future of the winger.
This year, this player for Manchester United was really important for us today. Let's see the next days.
How close is he to getting back to his best, and how important is he to this team?
I think he's improving in every aspect of the game. He was better today playing inside, also outside, changing positions. He's improving the recovering position. You can see it until 90 minutes, always there, recovering and helping. And sometimes showing some frustration, and that is really good because he wants more. I think he has potential to be so much better in every situation of the game. So what I can say is that he understood what I was trying to do and was really clear. I just want to help them, and but in the end is them that do the job.
From listening to that, I realise it's a difficult question to ask, but from listening to Ruben Amorim there, do you think Garnacho will be still a Manchester United player at the end of the window?
It doesn't seem likely at the moment, I'd say. I think Ruben Amorim there, the demeanour and the way in which he answered the question really said it all. And I think it's a shame, it's a real shame, because as Dan mentioned, he's got so much potential, Garnacho, but in an ideal world, I think United would want to keep him, but it's that PSR, once again, profit and sustainability rules are having such a big part to play in what clubs can do this season. We've spoken about it already. I think it's also the difference between bringing in a Patrick Dorgu, like, for example, that Ruben Amorim needs to fit into his setup and his system. That is fundamental. You can look back at perhaps bad recruitment under Erik ten Hag and the fact that Manchester United built a squad around him. They are now having to pull that back and realise that they now have to mould a whole new squad for Ruben Amorim. It's going to be a difficult process, I think, for Manchester United at the moment, but it all comes down to money, and right now it looks like Garnacho will be someone who leaves because of that 100% profit, because he is a homegrown player. It's a sad situation, as I say, because of exactly that. He's homegrown. You want to see him flourish at the club where he's been brought up, but it doesn't look likely that that's going to happen.
Yeah, all options still on the table for Garnacho. A reminder, we are going to be hearing from the Manchester City manager, Pep Guardiola. He's talking live at 12:30. We'll bring you that. Up next, though, we'll be with Tottenham Hotspur. Find out what Ange Postecoglou has had to say about potential incomings. We'll be bringing that in a few minutes. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. A line reaching us from the Championship this afternoon. Ali Al-Hamadi has completed a medical at Stoke ahead of joining on loan for the rest of the season from Ipswich. Also news reaching us from the Premier League this afternoon, which has just come in. Michael Coyote has completed his Brentford medical and is now set to complete an initial loan move from Fiorentina. Any more on that, we will bring it to you as it comes in here on Transfer Talk. Now, you would think that Tottenham's need for a forward has potentially got even greater now, given Dominic Solanke will be out injured for 6 weeks. Ange Postecoglou has spoken today and insists it doesn't change their approach to the window.
Well, all those things are known. Nothing's changed in the last 24 hours. We've known
It's
that
got a little bit worse.
But, well, I mean, we kind of knew sort of with Dom probably a few days back. I've obviously had a press conference in the meantime. So all these things are known. So nothing changed, the last 24 hours that changed that part of it.
Nothing imminent, I think, was the line last night. Is that still the case as far as you're concerned in the, 8 hours since we've spoken to you?
Transfer-wise, you mean? Yeah. Nothing really changed.
Nothing particularly changed then since we heard from Ange Postecoglou last night after their European match. If they are unable to bring in any further players, what are the prospects for Tottenham this season?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough season, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Mickey van de Ven and Christian Romero look to be coming back soon, which will be a huge boost to them, but then it's whether or not they can stay fit. To stop Tottenham leaking goals, that is a massive problem at the moment because of the way Ange Postecoglou wants to play. They need steady, reliable centre-backs. If they're not going to get them in the window, they need to rely on fitness. That said, Dominic Solanke similarly out for 6 weeks now, we know that. That's a blow. That is a big blow. Ange Postecoglou had made it clear that he needed some reinforcements up front. And with Solanke out, Brennan Johnson has been nursing an injury too. It does, again, exacerbate their need to strengthen in that position. So what Tottenham can achieve in the rest of the season is a difficult one. I think if they were to clinch some silverware, it would definitely take the pressure off Ange Postecoglou and Spurs. That would be a huge boost, and actually it would probably mask these problems and would definitely be seen then as a successful season. At the moment, though, the fact that they are closer to the relegation places than they are the top 8 is a huge concern for Tottenham fans. And should they then not bolster the squad and bring in reinforcements where there have been so many injuries, 11 players out, in fact, it's quite concerning for Tottenham fans, I think.
I know Solanke is a huge blow, of course, for 6 weeks, but the good news for Tottenham is they have a £60 million forward in their squad who's just returning to fitness in Richarlison. And now this is his opportunity. He's only made 7 appearances in the Premier League this season. He had a terrible hamstring injury. He's just managing his minutes to come back to full fitness now. But now this is his time now. I mean, I agree they could perhaps look in those forward areas, but I would agree also that perhaps the defence is a more urgent kind of necessity because of the ages you have. You probably need a bridge between Dragus and Archie Gray to Mickey van de Ven and Romero. But Richarlison, let's not forget, he has scored goals for Watford, Everton, Tottenham. He showed some inconsistencies, but he is still on his day a fantastic striker, and he knows how to score in the Premier League. So for me, I would say priority has to be the defence.
Yeah.
I would say defence as well, because if you look at Spurs and you look at Mickey van de Ven, again, an incredible centre-back, very talented and imperative in terms of what Ange Postecoglou is trying to do in terms of that high line and playing football in his style and his image. But Van Ven suffered of injuries last season, so it's not a case of putting a plaster on the situation. It's a long-term solution as well, because we don't know how often he's going to face his injuries, and with the style of play in terms of how explosive he is, those hamstrings have proved an issue. So bringing in an option not just to satisfy them this season, but also to be a long-term alternative to Mickey van de Ven if he does miss significant time with injury is crucial. But again, with all of these teams, it's finding the right profile of player, and in January that is just very, very difficult to do.
Tottenham taking on Leicester this weekend. We're going to talk about Leicester shortly on the show. But on the way next, it's the Manchester City boss, Pep Guardiola. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. Before the break, we were talking about Tottenham. Their opponents this weekend are Leicester. Wayo Koulibaly could make his debut against Tottenham on Sunday. Leicester have only got one player in the door this month, but will they sign any more as they fight to stay in the Premier League? This is what Ruud van Nistelrooy had to say today.
No, it's clear the situation that the week that we have left, more or less, in the window, we are looking at options within the possibilities to strengthen the squad, and also this part is this deal with Tom is part of that situation. So we are addressing that and look at players to strengthen the team within the possibilities that are there now at the moment.
You say possibilities. Is it for you, given the predicament in his current state of play, essential that you bring one or at least two more people in to help you out?
No, it's clear that what we have now, I believe in these players that we have now, and we're looking to strengthen with possibilities that really strengthen this squad, and that is the focus for now.
Ruud van Nistelrooy talking there today. Now, Dan, you've been down to Leicester a lot this season interviewing Ruud. What do you make of his demeanour there?
The questions are getting more difficult in those news conferences, aren't they? Compared to when he first arrived at the club, some positive results. It was all very smiley and the atmosphere around the news conferences were very positive. But 7 losses in a row later, it's now becoming very difficult. And you look at the transfer window they've had. Yes, they signed Koulibaly for £3 million, 25-year-old full-back, will be some relief for James Justin. But what Tom Gale was alluding to was Tom Cannon's sale to Sheffield United for just £10 million, which Leicester will hope that gives them a bit more flexibility in this transfer window. But the issue for Leicester is they don't have a lot of flexibility financially, and they're also locked up with their domestic loans. Facundo Buonanotte is on loan from Brighton. They also have Odsonne Edouard from Crystal Palace that they had in the summer, and that move just hasn't worked out. But it's really limiting them from really exploring more possibilities. And we've all spoken to Premier League managers about transfers and, you know, how optimistic can you be for bringing in signings? And I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is very well versed in giving optimism. And usually managers will say, we're close to getting a few in, or we hope to get a few in. I'm not getting those messages from Ruud van Nistelrooy. So I think if I'm a Leicester fan, I'm looking at the defence of Conor Cody, Yannick Vestergaard, probably need some reinforcements in that area, perhaps another attacker. It doesn't seem, especially after the summer where they had a lot of targets and they weren't able to get them over the line. Steve Cooper at the time admitted that. The recruitment hasn't been the best in the last 12 months or so. And I'm not getting the messages from Ruud van Nistelrooy there that things are changing in the immediate future.
The other strand to Leicester is that the Mail and the Telegraph this week have reported dressing room unrest after the Fulham game. Buonanotte, Okoli, 2 players involved in that. I mean, what does that say if you're a player wanting to potentially move to the Premier League and Leicester are in for you? Does this hamper Leicester's ability to bring in players when there's other things going on?
There's so many things that hampers Leicester's ability to bring in players. Dan, you mentioned the inability to bring in players on loan because they've reached that limit in terms of domestic loans. And a huge selling point of Ruud van Nistelrooy coming to Leicester was the contacts that he has, not only in the Netherlands, but also at Manchester United. And you think about the players that they could possibly offload during this window, but Leicester can't capitalise on that, unfortunately, because they have reached the limit, and you can't say these loans have worked out. Odsonne Edouard's only started 1 game in the Premier League for Leicester, and then I think they're paying the price, really, for the poor recruitment in the summer. A mixed bag. Think about El Khanous, who, again, has been good to a point under Van Nistelrooy, but has he hit the ground running? You think about Caleb Okoli, who was good under Steve Cooper, but really failed to make a mark under Ruud, and the headline signing Oliver Skipp hasn't really worked out, and it came to a boiling point in the Fulham game, not just in the dressing room, but the fans were booing some of the decisions made by Ruud van Nistelrooy. So in terms of recruiting players and bringing them in this window, it's going to be very, very difficult for Leicester. We know they haven't got infinite funds to spend as well. So it's interesting hearing Ruud talk. Like you say, the demeanour has changed, and for Leicester, they just have to figure out a way to sort the situation out and bring in players that can help them survive the season.
From a fan perspective, though, that is so difficult to stomach, isn't it? I mean, you're in the Premier League, you want to fight for your right to be in the Premier League. Leicester have been a very successful Premier League club, as we know, having won the title previously. It's such a shame that it feels now that it's almost inevitable that they will not survive the drop. unless they bring in reinforcements, and the reinforcements aren't looking likely. It's such a difficult, well, half of the season to go, and without having your attacking winger that they really need in particular, just to provide some sort of support into Jamie Vardy in front of goal. That is what's needed, and that's not looking likely at all for Leicester this season. I feel for the fans, because right now it's difficult to see the ambition of Leicester Football Club.
Leicester 2 points from safety in the Premier League. You've been speaking to Jamie Vardy as well this week. Does he think he's getting enough service into him?
Well, what he said was they feel like they need a result. They need just one result, and he feels like that will turn around their whole form. But I think you mentioned, though, recruitment is such a big part. I mean, you look at the summer, they were on two ends of the spectrum. They signed Jordan Ayew, Bobby De Cordova-Reid, who are towards the ends of their career, but then they signed Bilal El-Khanous, Oliver Skipp, who is still relatively young despite his Premier League experience, and they had Buonanotte on loan, who has been good for them since joining from Brighton on loan. But there was nothing really in the middle. No player really to instantly improve that starting 11, who, as you mentioned, you're trying to survive relegation. There was nothing in the middle, and I think that was the issue.
But Abdul Fatawi was a signing that did work. Obviously, he was on loan there last season in the Championship, suffered that ACL injury whilst on international duty with Ghana, and he's the one spark that was working for Leicester this season. Out for the rest of the year, and how's your luck, really, when the one player that you did bring in that has worked is injured and can't contribute to keeping you in the Premier League?
Yeah, Leicester facing Tottenham this weekend. It's going to be a difficult one for Ruud van Nistelrooy. Right, let's hear from Pep Guardiola. The Manchester City manager is facing the media right now. We can go live to him and hear from him now.
Yesterday, could you first of all explain what the thinking is behind that and where he's likely to play in your team?
Well, the reason why was the potential signings. Due to the last seasons we didn't do the match, due to the exceptional quality of the team. We anticipate 3 or 4 months. We should do it in summer. We had to do it here for the amount of injuries, the problems that we had, and the club thought that he's a potential future for many years with incredible quality in the final third, and that's why we did it.
You've signed 3 players this week. Will they go straight into your squad for tomorrow's game?
Yeah.
All of them?
Yeah. We don't have players.
Could any of the 2, Rice and Kosanov, could either of them play
I don't know
right
that.
back?
I don't know yet. Can play, but I don't know yet.
Can you give us an update on any injuries that have flowed from the game against PSG the other night?
Which ones?
Are there any injuries? Is everyone fit?
Not the same injuries that we had. Ruben is out and Dorgu's out, and the players that we had out are out.
How important is this game against Chelsea, with you both going for Champions League place?
They are really important for the quality of the side. Always Chelsea have been. They're closing the table, even the big problems that we had in the past and recent past, and goal this week is really important. The next 2 games are finals for us, so we're going to, with our people, that they're going to support us to do good performance and take the results that we need.
If you don't make the Champions League, how concerning would that be?
Sorry?
If you don't make the Champions League, how concerning would that be?
We could make it.
You confident?
Why should think differently? You can ask me as well, what nice will be you qualify for the Champions League. So what's going to happen, I'm going to answer. But I'm thinking it's going to happen. Always I'm very positive with always the next target.
Hi Pep, you've got, after this game in Bruges, you've got the likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs all coming up in February. How important is the next few weeks for your season?
And Nottingham. Chelsea, and after Bruges, and we'll see day by day.
And just how impressed have you been by the job that Enzo Maresca's done at Chelsea, and how much do you think they've improved under him this season?
A lot. I think recognize the team for the day one, even when we play in summer camp in the States. Many things I start to see that we spoke many times the last years together. So yeah, really good. So I'm very pleased. I was a lucky man to work with him in the last years, and everything happened with him and his family is fine. I'm fine. I'm happy for him.
Pep, good afternoon. Just wondered what impression you've had of your three new players at training, because I'm guessing they're coming to a new club. They'll be very excited. What have your impressions been of them in training so far this week?
Yeah, good. So we didn't train much because we games travels. We didn't make training session all together. I think they didn't make once. Omar, Mamouche, yesterday was the first, and the other ones trained a little bit, but not all together. Yeah, fine. Victor is young, have a huge personality, need time, and Kuzanov is already settled, and for the fact that playing a French league, like, handle with the tough, quick, fast players, but of course he doesn't speak much English, not French, so communication will be one of the situations that we have to deal with. And Omar, yeah, yes, it was the training sessions in the first training, so I think he will adapt quick.
And after what happened in midweek, do you sense that they come in and they'll energise the group? What reaction have you sensed from the rest of the players?
Well, new players can help. Of course, they are here for that reason. Again, it could not happen when the amount of circumstances that we had. Tomorrow we have just one central defender, plus a little bit. No, we have more, I would say, because Kusa and that. But for Bruges, for example, we have one or two available, and that's why it's important for us, to deal with the amount of games that we have, to have more squad. But the best energy is when you can win games and play good, and that we have to try to do it again.
It's a big game against Chelsea. If you win, you go back into the top four. Have you got to be mindful of how big a game it is before putting them in, maybe the starting lineup or maybe on the bench, because they're new players?
Every game is important, and the season that we are having to qualify for the next season in a Champions League. And of course it is for the quality for the opponent. So they play really good, the patterns, the quality up front, the speed. They do really good things, and I'm pretty sure with the 6 days they had, they prepare well the game against us.
Yeah. Hi, Pep. What was the problem with Ruben Diaz, and how serious is it?
Abductor.
How long are you expecting him to be out?
I don't know yet.
He's not had a lot of luck this season, has he? Must have been pretty tough for him. How was he feeling?
Yeah, I was stable. Always was able to play a lot of games. But this season start to, it's what it is.
Pep, can I ask you a bit more about Vitor? Because he's, like you said, very young. I think just over 20 games as a professional. But you and the club chose to bring him mid-season. How many minutes can you see him having? Is he ready to start for Manchester City, for example?
Yeah, if he's here with us, of course, can start. We'll see. So the situations that we have in the back, I'm pretty sure they will have options soon. Maybe we'll need more time to adapt, but we are in some positions. All the seasons we struggle, emergency. So come for many years, not come just for now. Of course, for the young players coming, the situation that we have in terms, mainly the results and injuries, not easy. Always is better when you come up and everything is going well. But it's what it is, and they will make us stronger. And I'm pretty sure that the club decide this prospective player for the future for many years.
And on the right back, if Kyle Walker does go, are you okay with the number of players that you have as an option for that position?
Yeah, it's what it is.
Bag off 10:30 this evening, please. Start with Martinelli, if you can get the mic down.
Pep Guardiola talking there ahead of facing Chelsea in the Saturday night football. On the way for you next, we're going to be live to Brentford, and we're in the Championship too. We've got the latest on Morgan Whittaker. Where will he be come the end of the window? It's been a busy week at Brentford. They've turned down a bid for Johan Wissa from Nottingham Forest. Jeremy Landon is at the club's training ground for us. We can talk to him live now. What is Brentford's stance on Wissa, Jeremy? Are they confident that they can keep him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they are. When Wissa's move to Forest was put to Thomas Frank last time, he simply laughed it off. And when we put Mbomo possibly going to him a few weeks ago, he laughed that off too. Of course, Brentford have been playing hardball in the January window for quite a long time now. Last year, Tony was a big talking point, wasn't he? He was coming back from his ban. There was a lot of talk about Tony going in January. Brentford said, no, you're going to stay. And you absolutely get the sense that their crown jewels like Wissa, like Mbomo, like Shada are going to stay. If they do go, it's going to be, I think, in the summer. And when you look back on recent Brentford star exits, they've all been after the January window. Watkins, Raya, Benrahma, Mope. In fact, I had to look through the history books to see that Scott Hogan was transferred to Villa back in January 17 for £12 million, but that was a rare exception for Brentford to sell big in January. So I don't think Wissa is going anywhere, but some news for Brentford fans is that Michael Coyote, the right back from Fiorentina, has completed his medical and he is set to join more from Thomas Frank on that deal when we speak to him at 1:30.
OK, Jeremy, thanks for now. A developing story as well involving Morgan Whittaker this afternoon. Burnley are weighing up the possibility of matching Middlesbrough's bid for him. Plymouth rejected an offer from Burnley for the striker 2 weeks ago. Middlesbrough have agreed a deal worth up to £8 million with Plymouth. If Burnley match Middlesbrough's offer and it is accepted, it could leave the decision up to the player. One to watch there, Morgan Whittaker, as the days and hours progress. Now, plenty of discussion as well around potential outgoings at Newcastle. Eddie Howe has addressed Miguel Almiron's future in his news conference today. This is what he had to say.
On Miggy, it felt last week, not through anything you said, but just from what we're hearing elsewhere, that he may have played his last game. He could have been on his way. He's still here. Is there still a chance he could leave before the end of the window? And where is his head at with everything at the moment?
I think Miggy's head has been very, very solidly here. He's been brilliant in training this week. I've seen not one moment where I thought, I need to address this or speak to him or have a deeper conversation. I think we're both aware of the situation. Yes, there is interest in him from other clubs. There is potentially a chance he could leave before the window, but until that moment, and if that moment never arrives, he's still a valuable member of the squad. We love him to bits. He's got a great energy and character. That's never changed for a second. He's been the ultimate professional, and let's see what happens.
We wait to see what happens there. West Ham are pressing ahead in trying to sign a striker. Sky Germany are reporting that they're in advanced talks to sign the RB Leipzig forward Andre Silva on loan. Plenty going on at West Ham right now. Dan, just summarise where we're at with a few different things.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it could be quite a busy end to the transfer window for West Ham. I mean, if we start with potential outgoings, Jean-Claire Todibo, who signed for the club from Nice in the summer, £35 million. Someone I think we were all excited about to see in the Premier League, who's also linked with Manchester United, of course, as well, with that Ineos connection. Now, he has only made 15 appearances in the Premier League. He's only started 8 of those. Didn't really work out under Julian Lopetegui, and it seems that Graham Potter may be happy to part with the player. Now, Sky Italy are reporting that Juventus, who interested in him in the summer, are looking to reignite that interest this window. I think the sticking point with West Ham will be, what does that deal look like? I think West Ham's preference would be a loan with an obligation at the end of the season. Juventus seeing if they can get away with an option. So very interesting in that sense. In terms of potential incoming, Ezekiel Banzuzi, a midfielder from Leuven, we reported earlier in the week that West Ham had reached a verbal agreement for him, £10 million, 3 million potential add-ons. Now, that move has been slightly delayed in terms of a medical being completed and just the final details, but I think West Ham's still hopeful on completing that deal for the young midfielder, just 19 years old. And I think all of this probably links to a wider point in terms of West Ham's recruitment. Now, we know technical director Tim Stein has been really in charge of that in the last 12 months or so, especially with Lopetegui, the signings of Fulcru, Somerville, all the signings we saw last summer. Stein was very much the central part of. Now, we understand that West Ham are looking at appointing a new head of recruitment, and that is Kyle McCauley. Now, he has history with the new West Ham boss, Graham Potter. He's worked with him at Ostersund's, Swansea, Brighton, Chelsea, and it looks like Potter would like to work with him again to be in charge of recruitment. Now, I think this puts a lot of doubt in terms of Tim Steidten's future at the club, but I think for Potter, it'll be really good for him to have an ally he's worked quite heavily with in the past. And I do think there's a wider question about West Ham's recruitment that they need to, in the future, look to really get right.
What about the search for a striker then? It feels like we talk about West Ham and a striker in every single window. Andre Silva is the one, according to Sky Germany, from RB Leipzig. Is he going to be the answer for what Graham Potter needs? They've obviously got injuries up front.
Possibly. I don't think he's that prolific striker that West Ham need or are looking for. You know, whether or not he could support Jarrod Bowen when Jarrod Bowen comes back from injury, that is absolutely potential, but I don't think he is that target man, out-and-out striker that is going to score the goals that West Ham really so crucially need. He has a lot of experience in the Bundesliga though, 129 appearances, 56 goals, 23 assists. That said, hasn't played an awful lot of Bundesliga football this season so far, only 8 appearances in the league, 1 goal, 2 assists. So yeah, his form hasn't been there, but that's because he hasn't had the chance to shine. As for his qualities, he's definitely very calm, knows where the ball is when it comes to the opposition box and making sure that that's put away. It seems that he knows where to be at the right time, very much right place, right time, sort of a guy for putting those goals away. But as I say, whether or not he is the man to give them all the goals they need while Mikel Antonio is out, while Nicholas Füllkrug is out, and obviously pending Jarrod Bowen's return to the squad, I'm not so sure.
West Ham, the second part of Super Sunday against Aston Villa this weekend. Wolves' news conference should be an interesting one this afternoon. Vitor Pereira due to speak to the media about 1:30. You'll be able to see that on Total Football, which is coming after us. And from Wolves' point of view, they're adamant that Matheus Cunha is not for sale, amid interest from Arsenal and Nottingham Forest as well, which we understand Nottingham Forest ready to potentially make a club record offer for Matheus Cunha. Do we think question marks over the player's future is a distraction for him this weekend, given that Wolves actually are playing Arsenal?
What a fixture to look forward to, right? I mean, I think what we can say is perhaps Matheus Cunha's head, I would say potentially has been turned because of the interest in him. You look at Wolves' position in the league, battling relegation. Cunha himself has 14 goal involvements. He's had an excellent last 18 months in the Premier League. It must be said, he's done great to show that improvement. But I think in terms of his contract situation, we've been doing a lot of reporting around that. At one point, he was close to signing a new contract. Now that looks unlikely. I think that's pretty certain for the immediate future that we don't think he's going to sign that new contract. That could change after deadline day, potentially. But Wolves are also under no pressure to sell him. I think that's really important to highlight. He has 2.5 years left on his contract. They are also fighting for relegation, fighting to stay in the league. Why would they sell him would be my question. No matter the money offered, you're basically signing a warrant to relegation if you sell him with, 9-10 days to go. How would you replace a player of that ilk with that production? You
can't replace him, and Vitor Pereira has made it very clear that he's not going to change his style of football, despite the fact that Wolves have conceded a lot of goals. They've conceded 51 goals in 22 league games. On this pace, they're set to concede 88 goals, which would be the third most in Premier League history, behind Sheffield United, who conceded 104 goals last season. And you think about that Derby side who went down in the 07-08 season that conceded 89 goals. What do those two teams have in common? They got relegated. And so to combat conceding those goals, if you're not going to change your style of play, you have to score goals. And that's what Matheus Cunha does. And they can't afford to lose a player like that, especially if you think back to their summer, where they lost Kilman, they lost Pedro Neto and didn't replace those players. Wolves fans, I know that you think about the future of Lamina, the future about Cunha. These are crucial players for Wolves that they can't afford to lose in this window. So it's about retaining talent rather than bringing talent in.
Yeah, he's the difference between them staying up and being relegated, in my opinion. He is too reliable when it comes to scoring goals and creating chances. If Wolves lose him, I think it could be detrimental.
Yeah, well, Vitor Pereira should be a very interesting news conference coming at 1:30. Wolves taking on Arsenal this weekend. The Cunha derby, I don't know if that's a thing or not, I'm not too sure. But the transfer show is coming up for you. tonight actually between at 5 o'clock and at 7 o'clock. Loads to come on Total Football. We've got a host of Premier League managers. Thank you to Molly, thank you to Kwaku, thank you to Daniel. The football's back this weekend. Enjoy it all. We've got the Saturday night football, which is Manchester City against Chelsea. We've got a packed Super Sunday as well. Enjoy it all. We'll see you soon.